Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Daily Dose of Good News. I'm Cyrus Webb. So glad you all could be with us. It is Wednesday, December the 3rd. Have another great segment coming up for you guys today. Author Glen Stripling was part of our big Guinness World Record event that took place on Wednesday, October the 29th. I've known Glen for years. He's a very talented author. Hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, not only about his journey as an author, how he chose his genre, but also his own persistence as well, here on Daily Dose of Good News. One of the things, for those who don't know, Glenn is an author and he is known for science fiction. I know two of your books that I got on Amazon, but what led you to science fiction? Because that's one of those genres I think that a lot of times people don't think a lot of when it comes to Southern authors.
Uh, well, I've always liked sci-fi. I guess it kind of made me a little bit an outcast when I was in school. I was the weird kid. I thought that was okay. But when I was around fifth grade or so, I used to love the Saturday night movies of UFOs and Martians invading the Earth and giant spiders and giant birds eating airplanes. So I thought, well, I really like this stuff. When I got to junior high, I started reading Asimov, Robert Heinlein, and really the big guys in those days. And I thought, you know what? I think I can do this. So I started writing my novel, my first novel that only had 3 chapters to it. And then I started checking out books about how to write novels and what have you. And I got really enthusiastic for a while, and then I kind of lost interest over time. My first story was about a machine from outer space that goes around killing people and all that stuff, but I stopped in 3 chapters. But years went by, and after I graduated from Southern, I started taking up writing as a hobby, and then I came up with the idea saying, hey, let's write a book about time reversal theory. So I did some research, and I started taking it more and more serious, and more people started stepping forward to help me out. It's like Tom Sawyer when he gets all the kids to help him whitewash the fence, and they all get enthusiastic. And it's kind of like the same effect. I'd go to people and says, look, I'm writing this novel. I need some information, and they would bend over backwards to help me because, they got enthusiastic about it too.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. So that leads me to my second question for you then, Glenn. What has it been like to create these worlds and share them with the world? You mentioned, of course, reading others. What has it been like for you now to create your own worlds and have people read them?
Well, that's part of the fun about it. When I was a little boy, this is way back in the 1960s, my family would took me to these movie westerns, and I would see these great scenes when John Wayne was riding a trail, trying to find the bad guys. And everybody was interested in the story, but I like the stuff like the mountains and the valleys and the canyons. And one time we went on vacation, say the Grand Canyon. We passed through South Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and it was so awesome. It was so beautiful. And I thought, when I look at these JPL images from the Martian rovers about the mountains and the craters and all that, it takes me back to those days. And so I get a really kick about, doing these things that wouldn't interest a whole lot of people, but they do me. I love the faults and escarpments on the planet Mercury. I love the beautiful landscape of Mars. I love the thunderstorms on Jupiter. And when I write about this stuff, and I thought, well, this is pretty poetic.
Yeah,
and I love it.
So I'm gonna switch up my questions a bit. The same series of questions I sent you, Glenn, but I want to, because of what you just said, I want to ask you one of the questions that I had coming up later, and that is, what is the biggest challenge of world building? Because I think for a lot of people, especially because you're using your imagination, right? What is the biggest challenge of creating the worlds you write about?
Well, challenges is making it realistic. Okay, this is sci-fi, but it can be, some is fairy tale-ish. So there's a genre called steampunk, which is more like Jules Verne. I like mine to be reasonably, realistic. Like On my novel Cronosia, I have a purple sky. There's no chemical that I know of that's going to make a sky purple, but it was poetic, and I like that kind of thing. But at the same time, I like to contact science, people who know what they're doing. Cronosia was about black holes and wormholes, so I started doing some research. I would talk to scientists, learn more about the mathematics, so it'd be somewhat realism, and that turns some readers off if that interests others. That's okay.
Yeah, I love that. So I think, what you're talking about here makes me go back to what I mentioned to you earlier, and that is about people being surprised. Because, coming from the South, I know people have certain expectations. Have you found readers surprised that a Southerner is writing science fiction?
Well, I do most of my marketing here in the Deep South.
Okay.
Most of what I sell is Southerners, but I've got some. It's not a big problem, but I've got some interesting responses from some people. When I was writing Cronosia, my beta reader, my proofreader, told me it probably would not be a good idea to have biscuits and grits and ham hocks and all this stuff, a Southern breakfast in a Starship cafeteria. I says, okay, that sounds realistic. So I wanted to appeal to a whole lot of readers. And I mentioned that on my website, and I think some people started reading it. And
I think there's a great lesson there, as someone just said on YouTube as well. That books find their readers for sure. So let me ask you this question, and this is your fifth question here, Glenn.
Okay.
You told me about your upcoming release is called The Coughing Kumquat. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So what inspired the new book?
Okay. Well, it's not like I brought you some stuff to see what I've been up to these days.
Okay.
This is 2020 edition of Shelter of Daylight.
Let me see it, Glenn.
Yes, sir.
Hold it up.
I got a story in there.
Okay.
So
you can see it.
But to answer your question, it's a little short story I have. It's coming out in January, and I'm always looking for ideas for my stories. And when I go to the grocery store, my wife always sends me to the produce section because we eat lots of vegetables. And I just passed by this thing, a counter of all these kumquats around, little orange vegetables or fruit, whatever they are. And I said, well, maybe I can write a sci-fi about kumquats. And about the same time, I perused the internet and I found this article about these scientists, these doctors, these really smart guys that developed a theory that if we colonize the planet Mars, after a few generations, human beings will develop an orange pigment in their skin to adjust to the really harsh Martian environment. And I says, okay. So I came up with a story about about a schoolboy that comes to the Earth, and he has orange skin, and he coughs a lot because he's not used. Doesn't have really good resistance to the microbes in the Earth's atmosphere. So all the kids at school, they tease him and they make fun of him and call him names. And so I figured that kind of cruelty that goes on in schools, I think it still goes on today. I saw it growing up. We all did.
Right.
So in the story, I have a scene where a guy has his hand x-rayed. And during those days, I had a broken foot. So I went to this radiologist, a very sweet lady, who's going to take an x-ray of my foot. And I said, this sounds like crazy, but can you show me the proper way to x-ray somebody's hand? And I said, oh, and she was sweet as she can be. And she said, sure. She walked me to the x-ray machine, showed me how to hold my hand, one in the karate chop, one in a peace sign, and or that's okay sign. She showed me how to do it right. So I told my publisher about it, and he said, that's realistic. So he bought the story, and I'm excited about that.
Again, everyone, Glen Stripling was in today's feature. A great conversation about someone who's been able to find their own lane when it comes to writing and is staying focused on that lane. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of Daily Dose of Good News. If you missed any of our previous episodes, make sure you guys go to our YouTube playlist at dailydoseofgoodnews.com. That's dailydoseofgoodnews.com. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.